Hi everybody, welcome to the Fort Daily Demos. Today's demo I'm going to create the illusion of wood grain, and we're going to do a little picnic table detail where we show like the sort of the bench and the end of the table integrated. And most of this it's not intended to be a fantastic design, but it's more about looking at the different directions of wood grain and end grain cuts and things like that, and how that might look in different directions. So here I'm just sketching with a HB graphite lead pencil, starting to flesh out the form, and this drawing's in perspective. So remember, all your parallel edges need to be converging to a vanishing point. And in this case, the vanishing points are very far off of the paper, so we don't see them plotted on the sheet. They're extended out in space pretty far. You have to keep those in mind when you're creating the representation. As you begin to articulate the wood grain, it's really important to keep in mind the direction that a tree grows, and that's the linear length of wood. And so you want your pencil strokes to run in that direction. And then wherever you have a board that's been cross-cut, you're going to have, or you're going to see, the arcs of the tree rings. So here I'm just articulating the linear direction of the wood, adding some additional detail and so forth. It's really important when you're doing organic materials or anything like stone, wood, all this kind of stuff, that you allow there to be some flaws and errors and just a little bit more random direction of the line work and the grain lines. Don't try to be too perfect about it, or it'll look a little bit too much like it came out of a computer rendering or something like that. It won't look natural, actually. So it's really important to just stay loose, stay free, let there be variation in the density of the lines that you're creating that are representing the wood grain. Here I'm just starting to build in some more details, like a vertical post here, marrying this base that connects the bench. In this drawing, I'm not too concerned about structural integrity and things like that of the design. I'm really just interested in showing different directions of wood and how these things might interact and intersect, and how that might affect our representation of these things. Here I'm articulating maybe the separations of the wood. Typically wood boards come in specific widths or dimensional widths. You know, it's typical like 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, and a picnic table or something would be fabricated of pieces like that. So I'm just showing stronger edge work where the boards would be butt up against each other, and it's not maybe a perfectly smooth surface. Sometimes in your drawings, it's nice to just add details, even if it's not necessarily the finished design that you're thinking of. Here I'm articulating something like a little steel plate, just to create a little visual variation in this drawing. Again, it's not meant to be a particularly elegant table design. It's more about just showing different kinds of directionality of the wood and materiality and things like that. So here I'm kind of cutting into the bench to show like a little end grain of this vertical post, and kind of creating a little bit more separation between the planks on the table itself. Kind of creating a little gap there. Just adds a little bit more visual interest to the drawing. And I'm extending a little bit of my drawing detail up into that top surface, similar to what I did on the picnic tent, the seat bench. And again, it's just a matter of creating a little bit more visual interest to the drawing in this case. It's not intended to be a final design or something of that sort. So here I'm adding a diagonal strut brace, a little stabilizer underneath the table, add a little bit more maybe believable life to it, understanding the structural relationships. That's about it for the underlay, the base work for this detail. And now I'm pulling out my markers, and in this case using something like an ivory or a light wood, light sandy wood. And in this case, it's really important to run your markers again in the same direction as your wood grain, reinforce that grain, and introduce maybe a complementary wood value or brown tone that you can create a little bit more depth and density to your wood grain. And then once your marker has established your three-plane logic, you can come in with a Prismacolor pencil. And again, it's really important to pair that pencil value so it's in a complementary value to your marker work. I think in this case I'm using something like a burnt umber or a sienna, or using maybe a sepia pencil, which really complements the beige browns very nicely. And just finishing up the details. Laying in a little bit tighter wood grain, and now I'm just coming in with a marker, erasing some of that graphite underneath, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a sheen and articulate the screw heads and things like that a little bit here, or suggest the screw heads, and start to tighten up some of my line work. And here I'm rendering in with a gray marker, maybe a neutral 3 or 4 gray, and just create a little shimmer across that metal plate. I don't want it to look like it's chrome, but in this case maybe more of like a galvanized steel. So it's got a little shimmer, but it isn't too highly polished. And when you're ready, just go ahead and tighten up your drawing with the well, in this case I'm using a fine point Sharpie, but you could use a technical pen or a ballpoint. You could use whatever finish tool you prefer. You use microns, or Copic technical pens are pretty nice as well. But yeah, in this case I'm just using the fine tip of a Sharpie dual tip pen. Coming along, and if you don't have a very steady hand, feel free to use a straight edge and tighten up your work. If you notice, I tend to, if you watch enough of my videos, you'll notice that I do a lot of sketching first and rendering first, and then come back and tighten it up. And that's it. Thanks, guys.